So Exodus 4 today. Last week, God showed up, and he showed up in a burning bush. He calls Moses by name. He commissioned him to go back to Egypt and to lead the 2 million people out of slavery. Okay? So where we left off in this conversation is that God is promising to be with Moses and to work signs and wonders through him and give him the entire plan laid out. But Moses still hasn't packed his bags yet. Okay? He responds with a series of increasingly creative reasons of why he's not the man to go and do this task. Okay? So we're going to see even more today of the conversation. So Exodus 4, verse 1. Then Moses answered, "But behold, they will not believe me." So who's the they that we were talking about?
Egyptians.
The Egyptians, but also the elders. So God, remember, had told Moses, go talk to the elders first, and they'll believe you, and then you can go talk to Pharaoh. So Moses is replying back, the elders, they're not going to believe me or listen to my voice. For they will say, the Lord did not appear to you. The Lord said to him, "What is that in your hand?" He said, "A staff." And he said, "Throw it on the ground." So he threw it on the ground, and it became a serpent. And Moses ran from it. So he's at least a little smart. He runs from the snake. But the Lord said to Moses, "Put out your hand and catch it by the tail." We're going to talk about that, by the tail. So he put out his hand and he caught it, and it became a staff in his hand. So they may believe that the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, has appeared to you. Again the Lord said to him, "Put your hand inside of your cloak." And so he put his hand inside of his cloak, and when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous like snow. Then God said, "Put your hand back inside your cloak." So he put his hand back inside of his cloak, and when he took it out again, behold, it had been restored like the rest of his flesh. So if they will not believe you, God said, or listen to the first sign, they may believe the latter sign. If they will not believe even these 2 signs or listen to your voice, you shall take some of the water from the Nile and pour it on dry ground, and the water that you shall take from the Nile will become blood on the dry ground. Okay? So Moses has a new concern. Even though God told him that the elders and everyone will believe him, he doesn't think that anyone will believe this story. Remember, he's been gone for 40 years. He's literally nobody. And he's going to go back to these elders and say, "God spoke to me and we're all leaving." We probably wouldn't believe him either. Okay? But what if they don't believe that you actually sent me? Even though you've promised that they would listen, he doesn't believe it. He doesn't take God at his word. So God, with extraordinary patience, gives Moses 3 signs. The first one, he tells him to throw down his shepherd's staff on the ground, and it became a stake. And he tells him to pick it back up again, but pick it up by the tail. Now, any shepherd would know you don't pick up a snake by the tail, because if you grab the tail, what's going to happen?
It's going to whip back
It's going to whip back and bite you. Okay? But he has Moses trusting him with the part with the teeth. Okay? Pick it up by the tail. Trust me that I'm going to take care of you. Okay? So he has trust in God enough, and he does it. He picks up the snake by the tail, and it turns into a staff again. So he's teaching him a little bit about obedience here. You're going to have to obey even when it sounds crazy. Even when it sounds like it doesn't make any sense, obey what I'm telling you to do. Okay? The second sign, he tells Moses to take his hand and to put it inside of his cloak, and when he pulls it out again, his hand will be leprous. So it's going to be white, it's going to be splotchy, it's going to look like a leper's hand. Okay? And when you put it back in again and pull it back out again, it's going to be your regular hand. Now, some of us would be like, "Yeah, but can you take off the wrinkles?"
Like an animal leopard? Or
No,
is it
leprous. The disease.
Okay.
Yeah, so skin falling off, sores, all of that, and actually has white as snow and things like that. So he tells them it's completely healed. So in a culture where leprosy did not have a cure, this would have been an incredible sign, because for them, if you got leprosy, it was just you're counting your days, and you watched your body parts fall off one by one by one until you ended up passing away. So this would have been an incredible feat to just be like, "Look, watch the magic trick. Look, it's all gone." Okay? So then he gives him a third sign. He said, "If these people won't listen to the first 2 signs, I'm going to give you a third sign." And it's the most important one. He tells Moses what he's going to do. But where is Moses? Is he in Egypt?
He's in the desert.
He's in the desert on a mountain. Where's the Nile?
In Egypt.
In Egypt. So he doesn't show him this trick, this sign. He says, I'm going to give you one when you get there. You're going to take water from the Nile, you're going to pour it on dry ground, and it's going to become blood. Okay? So he would have to trust God about that one because he doesn't get a preview of that particular sign.
I think
Okay?
after the leprosy, I might believe him.
Right. Maybe we're getting there, we're getting some belief here, some faith here. But unlike the first two, this one doesn't have a reversal. He doesn't tell him to pick the blood back up again and make it be water again. It's going to stay blood on the dry ground. Okay? This was also going to be a preview of judgment. The Egyptians worshiped the Nile as one of their gods. It was one of their most important because they depended on it for everything. Okay? It was their lifeblood to them. And so God is going to announce that he has authority over even that. Even the most important thing in their life, he's going to have authority over it. Okay? So God gives Moses these tools for every kind of skeptic, but what we're about to see is that Moses is the biggest skeptic in the room right now. Okay? He gave Moses tangible signs to carry with him, evidence of God's power. Okay? And this last one is also going to be a preview of blood and the shedding of blood that is not going to be able to be reversed in Egypt. Okay, so he's giving him all kinds of signs and previews of judgment. All right, verse 10. But Moses said to God, "O my Lord, I am not eloquent, either in the past or since you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and of tongue." Then the Lord said to him, "Who has made man's mouth? Who makes him mute, or deaf, or seeing, or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth, and teach you what you shall speak." But he said, "O my Lord, please send someone else." Then the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses, and he said, "Is there not Aaron your brother, the Levite? I know that he can speak well. Behold, he is coming out to meet you. And when he sees you, he will be glad in heart. You shall speak to him and put the words in his mouth, and I will be with your mouth and with his mouth, and will teach you both what to do. He shall speak for you to the people, and he shall be your mouth. You shall be as God to him, and take in your hand the staff with which you shall do the signs." Okay, so Moses has been giving these three miraculous signs, a promise of God's presence, a very specific game plan, and the results of the game plan, and a guarantee that the elders will listen to him. Moses is ready to pack his bags now, right? No. He comes up with another excuse. He says, "I'm not eloquent. I'm slow of speech and tongue." Okay? And a lot of people read this and they assume that Moses might have had a speech impediment, that he literally can't speak. But Acts 7:22 tells us this. This is what Luke says about Moses. Quote, "Moses was instructed in all the wisdom of the Egyptians, and he was mighty in his words and his deeds."
I was just going to say, it sounds like he's just making excuses.
He's making an excuse. Okay?
I wouldn't have thought that he was cognitively.
Yes, he's not a stutterer. He was actually trained as a royal orator. To be in the position that he was, he would have been trained to speak very eloquently. So Moses is actually saying something closer to this. "I've been here in Midian for about 40 years. I'm speaking an Arabic dialect with a bunch of shepherds. I haven't spoken Hebrew or Egyptian in years, in decades." And he actually uses a phrase that means heavy of tongue, and it appears in Ezekiel as a reference to difficulty with a foreign language, not as the literal tongue, but tongue is in language. Okay? So he's basically saying, I'm out of practice. I'm not going to be impressive enough to talk to these elders, to talk to Pharaoh. I would have been if you had chosen me 40 years ago. I could speak then, but that version of me is dead and buried in the sand right next to the Egyptian that I killed. Okay, that version of me is gone. And God's response is incredibly direct and poignant. He says, "Who's made your mouth? You don't think I can control it? You don't think I can put words in your mouth? He designed the human tongue. You're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay." So God tells him to go. to go. And Moses finally, out of every excuse that he could possibly think of at this point, he just says, no, send somebody else. And it is at this point we're told that God's anger was kindled against Moses. Okay? This was the first time in this entire conversation that God expresses any frustration with Moses. And it's not because of Moses' inadequacy, or that he had questions, or that he was concerned about things. It was when he just flat out refused to obey. When he finally just said, nope, you got the wrong guy, send somebody else. Okay?
And before that, God said, I will teach you.
I will teach you what to say.
I mean, imagine how God said, I will teach you.
I'll teach you. Yeah, you don't have
I'll
words.
teach you.
I'll teach you. I got control over your mouth. It's okay. I got control over your mouth.
Just looking at you.
Okay.
I can teach you. I can teach you what to say, when to say, how to say, when not to say. Okay?
Do you think
So
he
you-
may have fear? Maybe?
Fear.
What?
Fear may have been
Absolutely
the
fear.
reason?
Yes.
Because of what he... Cause,
He's a fugitive.
yes.
He's been gone for 40 years, and he is not the person that he was when he left. And he's supposed to speak to elders and Pharaoh and lead 2 million people out. Could you imagine that assignment?
Yes.
There's a lot of fear, but God is literally going, Moses, okay, Moses, come on. I'm giving you the game plan. I'm giving you everything. I'm giving you signs.
And I
I'm
will teach
telling you, and I'm going to teach you. Moses goes, no thanks. I'm gonna go. That's okay. You got the wrong guy here. How many of us would
Isn't that
kill
ours?
for that game
But
plan?
isn't that our excuse?
Yes. Send
That
somebody
we have
else.
fear and we don't want...
But usually we have a lot less information than
I
Moses.
was gonna
When
say-
God says go, we're like, can we get the game plan and then we'll go?
There was a burning bush.
And Moses is looking at a burning bush, and the angel of the Lord, he's going, here's the game plan. And Moses is like, that's okay. That's not me. Yeah. So when Moses flat out refuses, that's a completely different matter. God can tolerate questions. You just see this conversation back and forth. Okay, you got that? Here's the answer to that excuse. I'm gonna show you signs. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna guarantee. I'm gonna be there with you. I'm gonna put words in your mouth. But when he says no, God's like, listen, disobedience is something I cannot tolerate. You're not gonna tell me no. Okay? When I'm telling you to go, when I'm telling you you're the man, disobedience is something I'm not gonna tolerate. But even in his frustration, he doesn't let Moses off the hook. And he doesn't abandon Moses here. Even though he's frustrated, he pivots. He says, all right, you don't want to go, that's fine. You're still going to go. But remember, you got an older brother. You got Aaron. And what he says is, Aaron's going to go meet you in the desert before you get to Egypt. God has not sent that invitation to Aaron yet. Okay? But he's saying to Moses, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to call your brother. Okay? You're going to meet. And he's going to speak the words for you to everyone else. He's fluent in Hebrew and Egyptian. He's been there his entire life. He's got this. And you're going to be like God to him. Okay? So God isn't saying, I'm going to use Aaron. He's still saying, I'm still going to use you, Moses. But I'm going to teach you and use Aaron as another part of all of this. Aaron will do the talking. Okay?
Is this the first time we're hearing about Aaron?
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright, so I want to put a pause right here, and I want to take note of all of this. We talked about his brothers and his sisters, but we're not introduced to Aaron until right here, till this interaction, where he's like, you've got an older brother, okay? Moses, in this arrangement here, is going to work out a lot less than what Moses hopes is going to work out. Aaron will later be the one who collects the golden earrings. He fashions the golden calf with his own hands. He builds an altar to it and calls a feast to Yahweh in front of this idol. Aaron's own sons will offer unauthorized fire before God, and they will die for it.
All of this is going to come up.
Gonna come up,
Okay.
yep, in Exodus. Aaron will lead a public mutiny against Moses. So the replacement that Moses was kind of hoping for turns out to be one of his biggest headaches later on, okay? So sometimes God gives us what we ask for and lets us live with the consequences of that decision. Okay? So Aaron was the consequence of Moses'
Say no.
disobedience.
And he says,
Could have avoided all that.
16, and you shall be a God to him, a God with a capital G.
But it says be as God to him. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
like
still-
like God. So not God as in like somebody somebody that you worshipped, but it's gonna be like Aaron's gonna have to come check with you of like, did God authorize this?
Because I'm gonna teach you.
So I'm gonna teach you, and I'm just gonna use Aaron's mouth. Since you don't want to use your mouth, I'll use Aaron's, but you're gonna tell him what I'm gonna say. So he's gonna be like God to him. He's gonna be like, is this okay? Do I need to say this? How am I gonna respond? So he's gonna keep going to Moses as the authority between him and God, the mediator between him. Okay? And that's the little tidbit. Moses is gonna be that mediator. God is not going to speak directly to anybody. He's gonna speak through Moses. Okay? Alright. So verse 18. Moses went back to Jethro his father, and he said to him all the things that the Lord has told him, right? Yep. He told his father, he's a priest. What do you mean? He's a priest. He knows God. He's been serving God. He would completely understand all the conversation that Moses had, right? No, what does it say? Moses said, please let me go back to my brothers in Egypt and see if they're still alive. That's all he tells his father-in-law. I want to go back to Egypt to see my family, to see if they're still alive. Y'all, this was a priest. He knew God. He served God. And Moses doesn't tell him anything. He's probably terrified. He's probably thinking, if you know God, you're going to know this is real.
If he's sitting speaking it out loud.
Yeah, but also, are you going to believe me? Moses has a huge thing with perspective of Moses. Are you going to believe me that I encountered God here? Are you going to tell me not to go? All these different things. So I'm sure he's going through all of that. And Jethro said to Moses, go in peace. And the Lord said to Moses in Midian, go back to Egypt, for all the men who are seeking your life are dead. So Moses took his wife and his sons and had them ride on a donkey and went back to the land of Egypt. Moses took the staff of God in his hand. And the Lord said to Moses, when you go back to Egypt, see that you do before Pharaoh all the miracles that I have put in your power. But I will harden his heart, so that he will not let the people go. Then you shall say to Pharaoh, thus says the Lord, Israel is my firstborn son. And I say to you, let my son go, that he may serve me. If you refuse to let him go, behold, I will kill your firstborn son.
Is he talking about the country, the people of Egypt
Mm-hmm.
as a whole? So they're the firstborn?
Yeah, so Israel as the firstborn son.
Okay.
Yeah. He's calling Israel his firstborn son, his people as his firstborn son. Okay? Alright, so after the conversation with God, Moses goes back to Jethro. He doesn't tell his father-in-law everything that happens, but he just asks to go back to check on his relatives. It's been 40 years, let me go have a family reunion, which is technically a true statement because he's sending him back to his brother. Okay, so it's technically true, but it leaves a lot out. Jethro gives him this blessing, and God confirms that Moses is going to go before Pharaoh, but this is not the same Pharaoh from when he left. That Pharaoh is dead and buried. This is a different Pharaoh that you are going to approach. So Moses finally packs his bags. He packs up his wife, his 2 sons, and they start heading towards Egypt. Now, God takes this opportunity to tell Moses something incredibly significant that he didn't tell him on the mountain. He says, Pharaoh, who is not going to cooperate, it's ultimately going to take me killing his firstborn son to get him to cooperate with you. So God is not going to be surprised by Pharaoh's resistance. It's all part of the plan.
But he's not talking about Pharaoh's literal birthed child.
Yes, it is.
Oh, I thought he was talking about the country of Egypt. Or of Israel. God is saying Israel is my firstborn, and he said, I'm going to require Pharaoh's firstborn. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a play on the words there.
I knew it was,
Yeah.
but I just was trying to make it all come around. Okay.
So he's literally telling him, I'm going to require the death of Pharaoh's firstborn son. That's what's going to take to break his grip. Okay? So this is a preview of what's coming. There's going to be a showdown between God and Pharaoh. And spoiler alert, Pharaoh's not going to win. Because God's already telling him, look, this is what it's going to cost. Okay? It's not even going to be a close call. It's decided before Moses even steps out of Midian. Okay? Everything, God has already told him what's going to happen.
But how is this conversation occurring? I mean, it's not like just you and I chatting.
We believe that that's how he talked to Moses. Because Moses quotes God directly here. So you would think that it would be a conversation that he's quoting directly. We have direct quotes of God. Yeah.
So the answer is yes, they are having a conversation.
Yeah, they're having a conversation. Probably not in person like me and you. He's probably hearing the audible voice, the Father voice. Okay, but the angel of the Lord is the physical form of God in the bush. When he's packing, I'm sure it's just this audible conversation. And Moses doesn't go into detail about how that happens. It's kind of odd that you have this great, huge thing that happens into your life, and we're just told God spoke. Every time we hear God spoke, that's God the Father. Voice.
And
God the Father.
physically, when he came off the mountain,
Mm-hmm.
he had been in the presence of God because of his countenance.
Yes. Well, that one's coming. We're not told that here, but we are told that the angel of the Lord showed up in the bush. So he told him, you're standing on holy ground. So it definitely changes you being in the presence of God. Alright, to verse 24. At a lodging place, so we're heading back to Egypt. It takes a little while. But at a lodging place, on the way, the Lord met him and sought to put him to death. Then Zipporah took a flint and cut her son's foreskin and touched Moses' feet with it, and said, surely you are a bridegroom of blood to me. So he let him alone. It was then that she said, a bridegroom of blood, because of the circumcision. So this is a strange and odd little story here, okay? But it's incredibly important. It's one of the strangest stories we're going to talk about, but we're not going to skip over it, okay?
Well, it says she threw it at Moses' feet.
Yeah, literally threw it at the foreskin of her son, threw it at her husband's feet. Yeah, we're going to talk about why.
Okay.
All right, so the family stops one night for rest. Okay, they're traveling. It's going to take a little while, about a week or so. So they stop for the night, and we're told that God appears to Moses, so physical form, and he's going to kill Moses. And we don't see Moses react to this. We see his wife react to this. She knows and understands what's going to happen immediately. So she has this perception, and she takes a flint, which is just a pointy rock, okay, and she circumcises her own son, okay, who's probably not a baby, okay, and she takes the foreskin and she throws it at her husband's feet, and she calls him a bridegroom of blood. Now that's odd, y'all. What in the world is going on here? Well, if she had to circumcise one of her sons, then that meant what? Moses didn't. What did God tell Abraham to do? You circumcise your sons. And you circumcise them actually when they're children, when they're 8 days old. Okay? So that had been the sign given to Abraham that every male descendant was to be circumcised. Now, we are thinking that this is the younger son. We're not told which of the sons, but Moses has 2 sons. They are not babies. Okay, we're not told exactly how old they are, but he'd been in Midian for 40 years. Okay, so they're probably not babies, but they are not like full adults. So somewhere in between. Okay, Moses is about to represent God before Pharaoh, someone who is considered a god to his people, and before all of Israel, but he had apparently failed to circumcise at least one of his 2 sons. Okay. God was not going to send an uncircumcised representative to do his work in all of this, okay? So the man that God was sending had to be in covenant compliance before he could be a representative, and he was not, okay?
And why did he pick him before? Like, why did he go through all this? And
Because he wanted Moses. He had picked Moses from the very beginning.
Knowing Moses had an uncircumcised son.
Yeah, but he's going to deal with it. He shows up to kill him. He's putting a death sentence on him.
Who shows up to kill who?
God shows up to kill Moses over
That's why it
this.
doesn't make sense. It's like, here, go do this. And then he stops him.
Mhm.
I'm gonna kill you.
I'm gonna kill you. But Moses is the one that doesn't understand. It's his wife that understands. Why? Because she was raised by a priest. She was raised by the leader of her people. So they required the sign of covenant in Midian, okay? So she at least understood this. Moses and the people of Israel in Egypt still circumcised. We don't know why he doesn't circumcise one of his kids. We have no idea why. We're not told why. But we're just told that he was in disobedience over this private matter. Because would anyone have known outside of their family if this man was circumcised or not?
Well, God would.
No, it was not a public display. It would have been a very private one. So God is requiring this obedience even in the private area, even in the home. Because he could have just let them go on and allowed this disobedience to happen, but he doesn't. And it's Zipporah that grasps the urgency of this moment and she acts. And she's not exactly happy about all of this that goes down. She doesn't blame God, she blames Moses. And she calls him a bridegroom of blood, which is not a term of endearment. Okay? She does what needs to be done, and it's God who relents. I'm going to tell you this as a little freebie. If you ever want to do a word study or a theme study in the book of any book of the Bible, anytime a woman prays or acts, God listens. Every single time. There are so many prayers of men that do not get answered. Several of them. But every time a woman prays or she acts, God always listens to her. It is an incredible study. I do highly recommend that you look into it. But God decides to relent because Zipporah obeys on her husband's behalf. Because he doesn't understand what's going on. Okay? So this is also a little bit of quiet foreshadowing here because she had to shed her son's blood in order for this to happen. Okay? And that becomes a central theme for the rest of this story. The shedding of blood and the requirement of a son's blood. Okay? So this is all going to come up repeatedly here. So that's why God is kind of doing this little private situation. And I'm sure this happened on the road because if it had happened in Midian, who would have probably stepped in and said, "You're not taking my daughter on this journey. You can't even obey." Her father would have probably stepped in as priest and authority over them. "You didn't circumcise them, you're not going." Okay, so God had to remove them a little far out to deal with a little private sin before he became a representative to all of Egypt. Okay?
Could he just be, also, I kind of feel like he might have been a procrastinator.
We're not told why.
He's making.
Where it's obvious that the other son is circumcised.
Yes.
It says only one is circumcised here. But we're not told why. We're just told that this is what happened. Okay?
But spiritually, this is extremely deep. It even takes us
Well,
into
I
the New
was
Testament.
thinking it's because he was raised Egyptian, not Jewish, but
He's not. He's raised in the house of the priest.
he was raised
Which is his wife's father.
Jewish, old enough that it still should have happened.
Yeah, and it happens in Egypt. The Israelites all circumcised.
Yeah, so it should have happened before he was put in the river.
No, Moses is. He's
Yeah.
Zipporah circumcised one of their sons.
Oh, I thought he wasn't.
No, Moses is.
Oh.
Yeah, is one of their
It's
sons.
just one
They
of the
have two
sons.
Oh, okay.
And she has to circumcise her son.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. This is a theme too because we have one of the sons whose blood gets shed.
But she doesn't have to circumcise the others.
Right. So the assumption is that one of them is and one of them isn't. That he might have obeyed once and not obeyed for whatever reason the other one. You know, we have no idea why. But you see Moses' disobedience here that the Lord is going, no, we're going to fix this. We're going to work on your disobedience. We're going to take care of this. But it's his wife that acts. She knows what's going on. She's perceptive enough.
What does the bridegroom of blood mean?
So bridegroom would be husband. And so husband of blood would be a kind of a derogatory term that you've caused me to shed my son's blood.
Okay.
So yeah, you are a horrible husband because you've made me shed the blood of our son. So she literally calls him blood husband. Yeah. Yeah. But God has to confront this private disobedience before they get to Egypt. Okay? Alright, so last couple verses, verse 27. The Lord said to Aaron, so this is now Aaron's call, he's in Egypt. The Lord said to Aaron, "Go into the wilderness to meet Moses." So he went. That's it. God said, "Go." Moses said, "Cool, let's go." Aaron obeys. Okay? Aaron obeys. Aaron's not going to obey the rest of his life.
Right.
Here he obeys. So he went and he met him at the mountain of God and kissed him. So this is Aaron and Moses. And Moses told Aaron all the words of the Lord with which he had sent him to speak, and all the signs that he had commanded him to do. Then Moses and Aaron went and gathered together all the elders of the people of Israel. Aaron spoke all the words that the Lord had spoken to Moses and did the signs in the sight of the people. And the people believed. And when they heard that the Lord had visited the people of Israel and that he had seen their affliction, They bowed their heads and worshipped. Okay? So God sends a little invitation to Aaron. We're not told how, but he tells Aaron, I want you to go meet your brother. He's coming back to Egypt. So the reunion happens. Moses tells Aaron everything. He gives him the whole layout. This is exactly everything that God did for me. Let me show you all of these signs. Okay? And the two brothers go back into Egypt together. They gather the elders. Aaron gets to speak. Moses performs the sign. And the people responded exactly how God said they would. They believed him. Okay? So we got over the first hurdle. Moses is like, they're not going to believe me. And they believed him. They heard that God had seen their affliction and he was going to deliver them. He's being sent a deliverer. And they bowed their heads and worshipped God for all of these promises. Hundreds of years of slavery and silence on their end. And God, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, has not forgotten them. And they're getting ready to head out. But at this point, they don't know what it's going to take to leave. They think that you're just going to pack their bags tomorrow and they're going to leave. But what unfolds next in all of these next chapters is months of a showdown between God and the gods of the Egyptians. Okay? So Moses ran through every excuse he had, his inadequacy, his lack of credentials, his poor communication skills, and God was patient with every single one to answer every single one. He eventually then sends Moses away with a brother, a staff, and a promise. I'm going to be with you. I'm going to direct you. Okay? All of those excuses that Moses had did not disqualify Moses. We probably would have been like, yeah, you're not it. You're not the guy. God is not like that. Okay? So this week, here's your challenge. Is there something in your life that you are declining to do? That God has told you, made it abundantly clear to you something that you are supposed to do, and yet you have one excuse after another, after another, after another. I want you to figure out what the real excuse behind all of that. Because Moses' excuse weren't Moses' excuse. Fear was Moses' real excuse. Okay? So I want you to figure out what is the excuse, the real one, behind all the excuses that you're using. And I want you to take that to God and ask him what he's going to do with it. Because God has this great track record with inadequate, reluctant, out of practice people, and it's a really good track record.